The woman's lips were turning blue. Marcus Chen had seen that color before, once in a hospital room he'd rather forget. His daughter Emma tugged his sleeve, her small voice piercing the December wind. "Daddy, why is that lady sleeping at the bus stop? Doesn't she know it's cold?" But the woman wasn't sleeping. Her eyes were open, staring at nothing. Her body curled against the frozen metal bench like she'd given up on warmth altogether. Marcus's executive training told him to keep walking, to mind his business, to protect his daughter from the harsh realities of the world. But something in the way the woman's fingers clutched a small, worn photograph made him stop, made him remember what it felt like to have nowhere to go, made him choose compassion over convenience. He had no idea that this moment, this single decision, would unravel a truth that connected their lives in ways neither could have imagined, and that saving her would somehow save them both. Marcus Chen's breath formed white clouds in the freezing air as he gripped Emma's hand tighter. The Boston winter was unforgiving, the kind that turned your face numb within minutes and made you question every life choice that kept you in New England. At 34, Marcus had built Chen Technologies from a cramped apartment into a multi-million-dollar empire, but success hadn't insulated him from the cold, or from the memory of hunger, of desperation, of nights when he wasn't sure where his next meal would come from. "Daddy, we have to help her," Emma insisted, her 6-year-old voice carrying that absolute certainty children possess before the world teaches them to look away. "She's freezing." Marcus knelt beside the bench, his expensive wool coat brushing against the grimy pavement. Up close, he could see the woman was younger than he'd thought, maybe late 20s, with dark hair matted against her pale face. Her coat was threadbare, offering about as much protection as tissue paper. But it was her eyes that struck him most. They were open but unseeing, locked in some private hell that had nothing to do with the temperature. "Ma'am?" Marcus's voice was gentle. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" She didn't respond. Her body trembled violently, an involuntary response that told Marcus she was in the advanced stages of hypothermia. He'd learned about this in his mandatory first aid training, the training he'd only taken because the board insisted executives should be prepared for emergencies. He never imagined he'd use it like this. "Emma, honey, call 911 on my phone." Marcus was already shrugging off his coat, wrapping it around the woman's shoulders. "Tell them we need an ambulance at the corner of Beacon and Charles. Can you do that?" Emma nodded, her small fingers already unlocking his phone with the passcode she'd memorized. Marcus marveled, not for the first time, at how capable his daughter was. Sarah would have been proud. The thought of his late wife sent a familiar ache through his chest, but he pushed it aside. Right now, someone else needed him. "What's your name?" Marcus tried again, rubbing the woman's arms through his coat, trying to generate warmth. "Where do you live? Is there someone I can call?" The woman's lips moved, but no sound came out. Then slowly, her trembling fingers loosened their grip on something she'd been holding. A photograph fluttered to the ground. Marcus caught it before the wind could steal it away. His heart stopped. In the picture, a younger version of the woman smiled beside a man in military uniform. But that wasn't what made Marcus's blood run cold. Behind them, barely visible in the background, was a building he recognized. The old Chen import warehouse, the one his grandfather had owned before bankruptcy took everything. The one where Marcus had spent countless nights as a boy, before his parents died and he aged out of the foster system with nothing but determination and a GED. "They're coming, Daddy," Emma reported, pressing the phone back into his hand. Then, without hesitation, she sat down beside the woman and took her hand. "It's okay, lady. My daddy's really good at fixing things. He fixed my dollhouse and my bike and even the toaster when Mommy—" She stopped, the way she always did when she remembered her mother wasn't coming back. "He'll fix you, too." The woman's eyes flickered toward Emma, and for the first time, Marcus saw recognition, saw someone swimming back from wherever she'd gone. Her lips formed words, barely audible. "Your daughter?" "Yes," Marcus said softly. "This is Emma. I'm Marcus Chen. The ambulance is coming. You're going to be okay. Chen, the woman whispered, and something like fear crossed her face. Chen Technologies? Marcus nodded, confused. Yes, do we know each other? But before she could answer, her eyes rolled back, and her body went completely limp. Emma gasped, squeezing closer to Marcus. In the distance, sirens wailed, growing louder. Marcus held the woman's wrist, finding her pulse, weak but present. He'd done everything he could. Now it was up to the paramedics, up to fate, up to whatever force had put him at this exact bus stop at this exact moment. The ambulance arrived in a blur of red lights and efficient chaos. The paramedics loaded the woman onto a stretcher, hooking her up to monitors, calling out numbers that meant nothing to Marcus but everything to their trained ears. One of them, a woman with kind eyes and efficient hands, turned to Marcus. "You probably saved her life," she said. "Another 15 minutes and we'd be looking at a very different situation. Are you family?" "No, we just found her. But I'd like to follow if that's okay. Make sure she's all right." The words surprised Marcus even as he said them. He had a board meeting in an hour. He had Emma's piano lesson to coordinate. He had a company to run, investors to appease, a life carefully structured to avoid exactly this kind of unpredictability. But he also had a photograph in his pocket and a mystery in his gut. And something told him this woman's story was tangled up with his in ways he didn't yet understand. "Boston General," the paramedic said. "We'll stabilize her there." Marcus nodded, scooping Emma into his arms. She wrapped her legs around his waist the way she used to when she was smaller. "Is the lady going to be okay?" "I hope so, sweetheart. I really hope so." Marcus carried his daughter toward his car parked half a block away. His mind was already racing, already problem-solving the way he did when faced with a business challenge. He'd go to the hospital. He'd make sure the woman got proper care. He'd figure out why she had a photograph of his family's old warehouse. And then he'd return to his regularly scheduled life, satisfied that he'd done the right thing. But even as Marcus thought it, he knew it was a lie. Something had shifted the moment he'd seen that photograph. Some door had opened that couldn't be closed, and somewhere in the back of his mind, in the place where intuition lived, Marcus understood that his carefully ordered world was about to be turned upside down. Emma rested her head on his shoulder as he buckled her into her car seat. "Daddy? Why was the lady at the bus stop? Doesn't she have a home?" Marcus paused, choosing his words carefully. "Sometimes, baby girl, life gets really hard for people. Sometimes they lose their way, and they need someone to help them find it again. Like you helped me find my way when I got lost at the aquarium?" "Exactly like that." Marcus kissed the top of her head. "Exactly like that." As he pulled into traffic, following the ambulance's path through the city, Marcus caught himself glancing at the photograph on his passenger seat. The woman's smile in that picture was radiant, full of hope. What had happened to transform that joy into the hollow-eyed despair he'd seen at the bus stop? And why did the sight of his family's warehouse send fear flickering across her face? The questions multiplied with every mile, but one thing Marcus knew for certain. He was about to discover that the past he thought he'd left behind was very much alive. And the woman freezing at that bus stop held the key to a truth that would change everything. Boston General's emergency room hummed with controlled urgency. Marcus sat in the waiting area, Emma curled against him with her tablet, her headphones blocking out the symphony of human suffering around them. He'd called his assistant, Diane, and rescheduled everything. The board would understand. Or they wouldn't. Right now, Marcus found he didn't particularly care. "Mr. Chen?" A doctor approached, her scrubs rumpled, exhaustion evident in every line of her face. "I'm Dr. Reeves. You brought in Jane Doe?" "That's what they're calling her?" Marcus stood careful not to disturb Emma. "She didn't have any ID?" "Nothing. No wallet, no phone. Just the clothes on her back and—" Dr. Reeves pulled something from her pocket. The photograph. "The paramedic said you might want to hold on to this. You knew her?" "I don't think so, but there's something in that picture." Marcus took it, studying it again under the fluorescent lights. How is she? Stable. We've warmed her core temperature, got fluids running. Physically, she'll recover. Dr. Reeves paused meaningfully. But Mr. Chen, this wasn't just about the cold. This woman shows signs of severe malnutrition, chronic stress, and she lowered her voice. I'd say she's been living rough for at least 6 months, maybe longer. The hypothermia was just the final straw. 6 months. Marcus's mind spun. 6 months ago was July? Summer. What had happened to drive someone to the streets in summer that kept them there through fall and into winter's brutal grip? Can I see her? Marcus asked. I know I'm not family, but she's been asking for you, actually, Dr. Reeves said, and Marcus's eyebrows shot up. She woke up about 20 minutes ago, and when we told her a man brought her in, she got very agitated. Kept saying she needed to talk to Mr. Chen. That's you, I assume. Marcus's pulse quickened. Yes, that's me. But I don't understand how she... Room 7 down the hall. I'll have someone watch your daughter if you'd like. Emma looked up, pulling off her headphones. I want to come too. Marcus hesitated, but Emma's stubborn expression was pure Sarah. His wife had never backed down from anything, and their daughter had inherited that steel spine. Okay, but you stay close to me, understand? Room 7 was small and sterile, the machines beeping their steady rhythm. The woman from the bus stop looked tiny in the hospital bed. IV lines running into both arms, monitors tracking her vital signs. But her eyes were open now, clear and brown and fixed on the door as if she'd been waiting. When Marcus entered, those eyes filled with tears. Mr. Chen, she whispered, you don't remember me, do you? Remember. Marcus moved closer, Emma's hand tight in his. He studied the woman's face, searching for recognition. There was something familiar, but he couldn't place it. I'm sorry, I don't. But that photograph, the warehouse in the background, that was my grandfather's building. How do you have that picture? The woman's tears spilled over. Because I worked there. 15 years ago. I was just a girl, 12 years old, and my uncle got me a job helping in the office. Your grandfather, Thomas Chen, he was kind to me. So kind. When my uncle died and I had nowhere to go, Mr. Thomas let me stay in the apartment above the warehouse. Do you remember? There was a small apartment, just 2 rooms, where the night watchman used to live. Memory crashed over Marcus like a wave. Yes, he remembered. His grandfather's warehouse had an apartment. And there had been a girl, a quiet girl with dark braids who did filing and answered phones. But Marcus had been 17, focused on his own survival after his parents' death. Working night shifts at a convenience store while finishing high school, he'd barely noticed anyone else. I remember the apartment, Marcus said slowly. But I'm sorry, I don't remember you. What's your name? Lily. Lily Thornton. She wiped at her tears with the back of her hand. You wouldn't remember me. I was nobody. Just the orphan girl your grandfather took pity on. But I remembered you. You used to come by sometimes, late at night after your shifts. Mr. Thomas would save you dinner. The 2 of you would sit in his office and he'd tell you stories about building the business, about surviving, about making something from nothing. Marcus's throat tightened. Those nights with his grandfather were among his most precious memories. Thomas Chen had been the only family Marcus had left after the accident that killed his parents. The old man had given him hope when there was none, had taught him that poverty wasn't permanent, that with enough work and enough vision, anything was possible. But the warehouse closed, Marcus said, the pieces clicking together. Grandfather went bankrupt. The bank foreclosed. That was... He calculated quickly. 14 years ago. What happened to you? Lily's face crumbled. Mr. Thomas tried to find me a place before the bank took everything. But I ran away. I was 16, stupid, angry at the world. I thought I could make it on my own. For a while I did. I got a GED, worked retail, even took some community college classes. And then I met Jake. She touched the photograph on the bedside table where Marcus had placed it. Lieutenant Jake Morrison. He was everything. Kind, brave, beautiful. We got married. He deployed to Afghanistan. And then she didn't need to finish. Marcus understood. I'm so sorry. He died 3 years ago. AGD. And I fell apart. Lost our apartment because I couldn't work, couldn't function. Lost my job. Lost everything, one piece at a time, until I was living in my car. Then I lost the car too. And then it was just me in the streets and the cold, and I kept thinking, maybe this is what I deserve. Maybe I should have stayed in that warehouse all those years ago, should have let Mr. Thomas help me. Maybe I wasted my chance. Emma had moved closer to the bed, her small hand reaching out to touch Lily's. You didn't waste anything, she said with the fierce certainty of childhood. My mommy died too. Daddy says she's in heaven. Maybe your husband is there too, and they're friends. Lily looked at Emma, then at Marcus, something like understanding dawning in her eyes. Your wife? Cancer. 2 years ago. Marcus didn't usually talk about Sarah with strangers, but Lily wasn't a stranger anymore. She was a ghost from his past, a living link to his grandfather, a woman who'd lost just as much as he had. It's just Emma and me now. We're figuring it out as we go. But you figured it out, Lily said softly. You built Chen Technologies. I've seen your company in the news. Mr. Thomas would be so proud. You did everything he said you could do. I had help. I had opportunities. I had luck. Marcus pulled up a chair, sitting so he was level with the bed. Lily, why were you at that bus stop? Why didn't you reach out? Why didn't you ask for help? Lily laughed, but it was hollow. Reach out to who? I'm nobody. I'm nothing. You're a CEO, a millionaire, probably more. I'm the girl who filed papers in your grandfather's warehouse before it all fell apart. What would I even say? Hi, remember me from when you were 17? Can you save me? People like me don't get saved, Mr. Chen. We just disappear. That's not true. The words came out harder than Marcus intended. That's not true, and you know it. My grandfather saved me when I had nothing. Gave me a reason to keep going. And maybe... He paused, the idea forming even as he spoke. Maybe this is how I pay that forward. Maybe this is how I honor his memory. Lily frowned. What do you mean? Marcus stood, his mind already racing through logistics, through possibilities. This was what he did. He saw problems and found solutions. He saw needs and filled them. The apartment above the old warehouse. The bank sold the building to a developer, but the sale fell through. It's been sitting empty for 5 years. I bought it last year. Thought I might turn it into something. Maybe a community center, I don't know. The point is, the apartment's still there. It needs work, but it's livable. Mr. Chen, I can't. You can, and you will. Marcus's voice carried the authority that had built a tech empire. You'll live there while you get back on your feet. We'll get you into counseling, help you process Jake's death properly. We'll get you enrolled in some job training programs, and when you're ready, when you're stable, you can decide what comes next. But you don't spend another night on the streets. Understood? Lily stared at him, tears streaming freely now. Why? Why would you do this? Because my grandfather would have. Because someone has to. Because... Marcus glanced at Emma, who was watching him with those serious brown eyes that saw everything. Because I'm teaching my daughter that when you can help, you do. No questions, no conditions. You just help. I'll work, Lily said quickly. I'll pay you back. We'll figure out the details later. Right now, you focus on getting better. Marcus pulled out his phone, already texting Diane. I'm going to have my assistant arrange everything. Clean clothes, groceries, whatever you need. But first, you're going to stay here until the doctors clear you. Deal? Lily nodded, unable to speak. Emma climbed onto the bed, carefully, mindful of the IV lines, and hugged her. It's okay, Emma whispered. Daddy's really good at fixing things. And watching his daughter comfort a broken stranger, Marcus felt something shift in his chest. For 2 years, he'd been operating on autopilot, building his company, raising Emma, going through the motions of life without truly living it. Sarah's death had hollowed him out, left him functional but not whole. He'd been successful but not happy, wealthy but not rich in the ways that mattered. But maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something new. Not a replacement for what he'd lost, but an addition to what remained. A way to honor his grandfather's legacy while creating a new one of his own. Dr. Reeves returned, checking Lily's vitals with practiced efficiency. "Everything looks good. We'll keep you overnight for observation, but you should be clear to leave tomorrow afternoon." "She'll need wheelchair transport to the old Chen warehouse on Canal Street," Marcus said. "Can you arrange that?" Dr. Reeves smiled. "Already done. And Mr. Chen? This is a good thing you're doing." Marcus shook his head. "It's the bare minimum. It's what anyone should do." But as he left the hospital with Emma, as he drove through the city where he'd once been homeless and hungry, Marcus knew it wasn't what anyone would do. It was what few people did. Choose compassion over convenience, choose involvement over isolation, choose to see the humanity in someone society had decided to overlook. Over the next 3 weeks, Marcus threw himself into the project with the same intensity he'd built his company. He had the apartment renovated, not luxuriously but comfortably. New appliances, fresh paint, warm blankets. He connected Lily with a therapist who specialized in grief counseling and PTSD. He arranged meetings with job placement services, and twice a week he and Emma would visit, bringing dinner and conversation. Slowly, Lily came back to life. The hollow look faded from her eyes. She smiled more. She talked about Jake without falling apart, shared memories of Marcus's grandfather, told stories about her childhood that made Emma laugh. And Marcus found himself looking forward to those visits, found himself calling her between times to check in, found himself invested in her recovery in a way that surprised him. "She's like family now," Emma announced one night at dinner. "Like an aunt or something." Marcus considered this. "Yeah, sweetheart, I guess she is." 3 months after that frozen morning at the bus stop, Lily started work as a counselor at a veterans support nonprofit. It was part-time at first, just a few hours a week, but it was meaningful work that honored Jake's memory. She was good at it. Her own experience with loss and homelessness gave her credibility that no degree could provide. 6 months after, she moved out of the apartment and into a small place of her own. Marcus had offered to let her stay longer, but Lily insisted. "I need to do this on my own," she said. "Need to prove I can, but thank you. For everything. For seeing me when I'd become invisible." A year after that frozen morning, Marcus received a phone call. "Mr. Chen, it's Lily. I know this is out of the blue, but I need to tell you something. About your grandfather." They met at a coffee shop near Marcus's office. Lily looked healthy now, vibrant even, her hair cut stylishly, her clothes neat. She was unrecognizable from the broken woman at the bus stop. "What about my grandfather?" Marcus asked after they'd ordered. Lily pulled out an envelope. "I found this in some old boxes from the warehouse, stuff I'd saved before the bank took everything. It's a letter. He wrote it to you, Marcus. Near the end, before the bankruptcy, but I don't think he ever got a chance to give it to you." Marcus's hands trembled as he opened the envelope. His grandfather's handwriting, shaky but unmistakable, filled the page. "My dear boy, by the time you read this, I will likely be gone, and the business with it. I have failed in many ways, failed to keep your parents safe, failed to keep the company afloat, failed to leave you the inheritance you deserved. But I hope I have not failed to teach you the most important lesson. Success is not measured in money or buildings or empire. It is measured in the lives you touch, the people you help, the kindness you show when showing kindness costs you something. You're going to do great things, Marcus. I see it in you. The intelligence, the drive, the hunger to prove yourself. You will build something remarkable, but when you do, remember, the building is not the point. The people are. Always the people. Take care of those who cannot take care of themselves. See those who society has decided to overlook. Be the hand that reaches down when someone is drowning. That is the legacy I want for you. That is the man I pray you will become. With all my love, grandfather. Marcus's vision blurred. He wiped roughly at his eyes, not caring that they were in public. Emma would be proud, he thought. Sarah, too. They'd taught him that tears weren't weakness. They were proof you still cared. He'd be proud of you, Lily said softly. Not for the company or the money. For who you are. For stopping at that bus stop. Marcus folded the letter carefully, holding it like the treasure it was. I almost didn't stop. I almost walked right past you. But you didn't. You saw me. You helped me. You gave me my life back. Lily reached across the table, squeezing his hand. And that's the truth of it, Marcus. That's what matters. Not the empire you've built, but the life you saved. Mine. And maybe your own, too. Marcus thought about that as he returned to his office. As he looked out over the city his grandfather had once conquered and lost. Maybe Lily was right. Maybe in saving her, he'd saved himself, too. Saved himself from becoming so focused on success that he forgot why success mattered in the first place. That evening, he read his grandfather's letter to Emma. She listened solemnly, then climbed into his lap. Are we doing it right, Daddy? Are we seeing people? Marcus kissed the top of her head, breathing in the strawberry scent of her shampoo. We're trying, baby girl. We're trying. And in the end, Marcus thought, that's all anyone could do. Try. Choose compassion when it would be easier to walk away. Reach out when it would be safer to keep your hands to yourself. See the humanity in strangers, even when they're freezing at bus stops in the middle of winter. His grandfather had taught him to build things, but more importantly, he'd taught him to build people up, to give second chances, to understand that the coldest winters aren't measured in temperature, but in the absence of human kindness. Marcus Chen had found a freezing woman at a bus stop and learned the truth his grandfather had always known. Real wealth isn't counted in dollars. It's counted in lives changed, in second chances given, in the choice to see someone when everyone else has looked away. And that was a legacy worth building. That was success that mattered. That was the inheritance Thomas Chen had really left behind. Not a warehouse or a company, but a blueprint for being human. In the end, it was the only inheritance that counted.